Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to toy-polloi, and today we're going to take a look at fixing this vintage Mego Robin from Batman and Robin, and this is the Fighting Fists version of Robin, as you can tell, because if you turn him around he's got a little button on the back that makes his fists work. If I can just do that quickly. Well, I can't because it's a bit awkward, but there you go, you can see he sort of has a fighting action. Now this guy's obviously been through the wars. As you can see, he's missing his left foot, his right foot actually doesn't look too bad, but his boot's got a hole in it. His head is a little bit play worn, he's got some paint missing on the top of his hair there, and he's also got a bit of ink on his cheek, and the outfit is a little bit tatty around the edges. So there's a fair few little bits to fix on this, so let's get straight onto this and see what we can do to restore poor old Robin. First thing I'm going to do is actually take off his outfit so we can just see what the figure is like underneath. I've not actually looked at this before. This was donated by Tony Squires a little while back, along with a whole load of other Mego dolls for me to restore. So I just had a quick glance over at it before I sort of started this video. So we can see, let's take off his little trunks as well. All of this stuff seems to be original, as it's fairly tatty and old looking and pretty dirty, so I would guess that it is all original, which is pretty nice. So the clothes there actually aren't in too bad condition. None of the threads are undone. It's just missing the little logo on the front. That should be fine. We can recreate that at some point, and maybe we can tidy up a few of these little marks. I think everything does need a good wash and a clean, so that's a job for that. Same with the little trunks here. They're actually not in bad condition considering the age. Just a little bit of tidy up of some of the threads and we'll give that a wash. Now the figure itself, as you can see, the main problem is obviously that his leg is missing. His head, not too bad. It does have a bit of paint wear on it, as I said, and there's some ink on his cheek. Let's try this action, see how well that works. Well, one fist is working and the other isn't. I have a feeling there's probably not going to be a way of fixing the other fist in there, but we'll see what we can do. So first up, I'm going to take off his head because I want to give that a good clean and also remove the ink from that. So we're going to use some Oxy spot cream to remove the ink. We can just have a look inside and see what we can see. Looking inside the body, you can see the mechanism for the arms, and it was actually just a case of this left arm looks like it's slightly out of sync with the right arm. So just by pushing the arm back in place, I've managed to get that arm to work. If I turn this round, you'll see that both arms now flick up and down. So it may just be a case if yours is broken that it needs pushing back into place, and the arm will sort of ping back to work. It's fairly hard to see really what's going on inside the body of this Mego doll, but it looks like a fairly simple construction, so I'm glad that that actually does work. Now the main issue with this Robin is obviously that he has a broken ankle, so the easiest way to fix this is actually to replace the whole of his leg, and I have a donor other doll here which has some good legs, missing a head, so I'm going to use this one as the sort of donor leg for this figure. Now to get these off, they're held on by a little plastic hook that comes out of this tab, so really what you've got to do is sort of manhandle this a little bit and push it so that that tab, I can just show you here, so that tab comes out a bit, and then you can grab that with your quick fingernails and then pull it out like so, so you can see the whole part of the hook like that, and then you've just got to unhook the rubber band, which is easier said than done sometimes. I'm going to just get a screwdriver in here just to hold everything out of the socket. There you go, and I've unhooked the little hook that holds the rubber band, and if I now pull this screwdriver out, the leg will come out and you're left with a spare leg. So we can now get the leg off this donor guy and we'll swap that back in. So this is the spare leg I've taken off the other guys. You can see it's a fairly good match in colour, which is really what I was after. You want something that matches the same sort of era of dolls so that they look the same. Now to put this leg back on, if you're missing this elastic band or it's perished, you can replace it just using a small O-ring. It will do just as good a job, but luckily this band doesn't look in too bad a condition, so we're going to use that. Now I like to use a crochet hook to hook these all back through. So what we do, this is the right leg, I'm just going to put the crochet hook through the groin area, grab the elastic with the crochet hook and pull it through. And I'm just going to hold that like that, because I can then thread the crochet hook through the hip joint of the other leg that I want, and we can pull that through and you can see that the elastic is now hooked there nicely. I can now, with a little bit of fiddling, get this hook and stick it back on through the elastic, and we can pop that leg back in place. So I just got to hook the elastic on. This again is easier said than done sometimes, it just doesn't want to hook on. There we go, I think I've got the hook through, like so. So we can now remove the crochet hook and pop that back in place, just sort of push it back into the leg, and there we have replaced Robin's left leg. For the ink stain on his cheek here, we're just going to use some Oxy 10 spot cream. Now this contains benzoyl peroxide, which is the active ingredient you will need to remove a stain like this. We're just going to blob on a tiny amount of this onto the area where the little bit of blue mark is, so just a tiny bit on. Now you can either leave this and let it dry and then keep replacing it every day, or you can wrap this in cling film and then sort of it doesn't dry out so quickly. Either way will work. It's perfectly acceptable to do it both ways. I actually prefer to sort of let this dry out, rub it off, then put another bit on, sort of replace it every day, and within about 3 or 4 days that ink stain should have gone. So in the meantime we can get on with fixing something else on this toy. Before I do anything else to the clothes for Robin, I think the first thing we need to do is actually give these a good clean, because these are obviously very old and quite dirty. So I'm just going to give these a good soak in some hot soapy water, just using some general dish soap, and then really sort of rub them in and rub it as best I can to get all of the dirt and grime out, and then I'll give them a good rinse in some just non-soapy water, just clean water, and we'll let them dry, and then we can sort of have a look at what we can do to tidy up some of these edges and sort out replacing this little sticker. So let's go and give these a good clean in hot soapy water. So after a good wash we're left with this. They're not looking too bad. There's still a few little frayed ends, but they are actually an awful lot cleaner. The water that came out of these once they've been washed was filthy, so obviously that's 40 years worth of dirt. So all I'm going to use is a pair of small, very sharp scissors just to go around these and cut off some of these little loose ends of sort of the threads and stuff that are coming loose around the edge, just to tidy this up. There's obviously not a great deal we can do to this, but I think just tidying up some of these ends should make quite a difference just to the sort of the overall look of this piece. So it's probably worth doing this. Fairly fiddly because there's just lots of little ones, but it's just going to tidy it up a bit. The worst area really is actually around the buttonhole, you know, where the sort of the tab part of the action, the fist fighting action goes. That is actually quite frayed, and there's not really a great deal we can do with that because it's such a thin bit of fabric. But all the other places with the little frayed bits like this, we can just sort of tidy up, and it makes it look a little bit tidier. Now of course there is still one thing missing from the front of this Robin outfit, and that is the black circle with the yellow R on it. Obviously that was missing from this when I got it. Now there are people selling these online, but the prices of them seem quite high, so I thought I'd just make my own one. So I took some images that I found on the internet into Photoshop and recreated the logo from scratch. I've also recreated the Batman logo as well, because I thought I might as well do both at the same time, because at some point I hope to find a Batman to restore as well. And this file will be available on toy-polloi.com, so you can download and print it yourself. Now of course I've printed it here onto some glossy sticky backed photo quality paper. This is fairly similar to what was on there originally, I think. Some of the later ones had a more sort of fabric finished sticker, but in this instance it's just going to be a nice gloss sticker. So all I've got to do is cut around this and we'll stick it on, then we can sort out finishing the rest of the figure and putting Robin all back together. So here's the R cut out. I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers to carefully peel the back sticky part off of this sticker, like so. Now I can stick this in the correct place on the chest. There we go. That looks pretty good. So let's get on with fixing up the rest of the toy. So the head is now back from having the ink removed. You can see the ink has actually gone, but we're left with a little bit of a grey patch there, which is the sort of standard greying that you get on these old Mego heads. That is fixable using some Plasti-Dip, but I don't have some, and as it's such a small area, I think I'm going to leave it. So we can just go ahead and put this head back on the body, which is sort of a brute force method, really. You just got to sort of squeeze it in. Sometimes with a screwdriver is a bit easier, but you can just push these back in if you're forceful enough, like so. Now we can sort out fixing the paint scratches and sort of rubs on his head. For touching up the paint on Robin's head, I'm going to use some Humbrol acrylic paints. Now I have two types of black here. I have number 33, which is a matte black, and I have number 21, which is a gloss black, because the finish on his head is sort of halfway between gloss and matte. So the way I work with this is just wet the brush a bit, and I'm going to mix the blacks together. So a part gloss, part matte, and we'll get something that should produce a sort of the right sort of finish. I've done this before on Star Wars figures and it gives a very good result. So if you're just mixing the two together, you'll get a sort of halfway house. I'm going to just get a little bit on the end of my brush, and you can see there are quite a few little sort of marks where his hair's rubbed. So I'm just going to paint it onto those. I'm not going to put it all over, because it really is just the little areas that I want to touch up. So with some careful application, you can see that now all of those little rubs have disappeared, and the paint has dried, and it's dried with a fairly good match. In fact, you'd be hard pushed to tell which was the original paint and which is the stuff I've touched up on there. So yeah, good mixture of matte and gloss, and you can get quite a nice finish there. So let's put the clothes back on this guy, and we'll sort out the accessories that we're missing. I've been trying to find some original versions of the shoes and the belt and bits that we're missing for this, but obviously that's proving hard to do, as they're fairly easily lost, and the prices that people ask for them are a little bit out of my budget for a restoration like this. So I've been to dr.mego's website and purchased a few things off him. So they arrived, they were all packaged up quite nicely. So first up we've got the little shoes. Let me just take, they've even got little bits of stuff inside them, like a proper pair of shoes was. Let's see if I can get that out. So there's one of the shoes, and if we compare it to the original one I had, you can see the green, it's slightly more muted. The original one is a very sort of neon green, but actually it's a pretty good recreation, so I'm pretty happy with those. So we can slot both of those boots on, and he'll look already a load better just by having some boots on. That's much better. Now I was also missing the belt, and again this came from dr.mego. These all cost only a few dollars each, or even less on some of them, but the problem is if you live in the UK like I do, the postage on them can be quite a lot. So I've actually bought a whole load of these for some other Mego restorations that I hope to do in the future. So here's the belt. This is actually probably the worst quality of the ones of the bits that I bought of him. It looks really quite cheap, and the plastic is quite sort of thin looking. It'll do the job, but it just doesn't look great quality, so I was a little bit disappointed in that. But by the time it's on the figure and wrapped around, I don't think you'll notice that it's a slightly sort of cheaper looking plastic. So we can just slot that on there, make sure it's over the little activator switch on the back, and again makes the costume look a lot better just by adding that. And the last thing is the gloves, and again these came off dr.mego's website. These just look to be made out of some fairly sort of thin vinyl that's been stuck together on one edge, so I hope these should fit on to his hand like they would have originally, and they do, and they don't look too bad actually. So that's the last bit there. Get this glove on, and then I'll set him up and we can look at him in all his glory. And here is Robin fully restored and back and ready for action. As you can see, he now looks really quite nice. If you compare him to how we started, where he was missing a foot and all his clothes were dirty and the logos were missing and all the accessories were missing, he looks like a really nice complete Robin. It's a fairly simple job to do. Most of the fixes on this are pretty easy to do just because of the way these Mego dolls are constructed. You can generally swap bits out and replace them, and thanks to some quite nice modern reproduction sort of accessories, it's fairly easy to get replacement bits for these vintage Megos, especially for this Robin. The only thing I've had to create from scratch is the little emblem there, but as I say, that's available for free from toy-polloi.com, so go and check that out. And I hope you've enjoyed this restoration, and if you'd like to help out in future toy-polloi videos, then please check out my Patreon page. Links to that are in the description to this video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.